These NBA stars dominate the regular season, but when the playoffs hit, their legacies crumble. From unexpected first-round exits to total playoff meltdowns, we're revealing the most shocking collapses from 6 elite players you won't believe. Stick around because one of these flops will change how you see a future Hall of Famer forever. And we're starting with Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie is the perfect example of a player who dazzles in the regular season, but when the playoffs come around, cracks begin to show up in his armor. Throughout the regular season, Kyrie is known for his electric ball handling, clutch shots, and consistent scoring. In fact, his regular season performances make him one of the league's top talents, but come playoff time, that consistency fades every single time. In the postseason, his scoring dips slightly and his efficiency drops as well. For someone who's supposed to shine brightest in big moments, the fall in stats is concerning, but stats only tell part of the story. One of Kyrie's most infamous playoff performances came during the 2019 postseason with the Celtics. After confidently declaring that the regular season didn't matter, Kyrie stumbled in a critical Game 2 against the Bucks, managing just 9 points on a brutal 4 of 18 shooting. It was a collapse that left Celtics fans scratching their heads wondering how such a talented player could disappear when it mattered most. Up next is DeMar DeRozan. DeMar is known for his mastery in the mid-range, and his fluid scoring style often looks unstoppable in the regular season. He racks up points with ease, creating space and getting buckets with his signature turnaround jumpers and drives. But when the playoffs roll around, it's a whole other story. During the 2022 playoffs, DeRozan's inconsistency became a major issue for the player. After an explosive 41-point performance in Game 2 against the Milwaukee Bucks, it seemed like DeRozan was poised to carry the Bulls. But what followed was a drastic collapse in Game 5, where DeRozan was held to just 11 points on 5 of 10 shooting. Without Zach LaVine to balance the offense, the Bucks zeroed in on DeRozan, throwing multiple defenders at him, crowding his mid-range game, and daring anyone else to beat them. The result? DeRozan's magic was neutralized, and the Bulls crumbled under the pressure. This isn't an isolated case for DeRozan. Throughout his career, he has been criticized for underperforming when it matters most. While he often shines in the regular season, his playoff stats tell a very different story. His ability to create his own shot and score from the mid-range becomes less effective when playoff defenses adjust, locking in on his habits. Teams know his strengths, and when they take away his go-to moves, DeRozan struggles to adapt. What separates playoff success from regular season stardom is the ability to adjust. For DeRozan, when the mid-range is denied and his usual offensive rhythm is disrupted, he lacks the versatility to find other ways to impact the game. The playoffs, known for their intensity and focus on exposing weaknesses, have repeatedly found and exploited DeRozan's limitations, leaving him and his teams falling short when the stakes are highest. Moving on to Tracy McGrady. McGrady's playoff struggles are often viewed as a combination of factors: bad luck, injuries, team situations, and perhaps some underwhelming performances in crucial moments. While McGrady's talent was undeniable, he could never get past the first round of the playoffs in his prime, leading to questions about his legacy and whether he was truly a superstar capable of carrying a team. In his early years with the Orlando Magic, McGrady was practically a one-man show. His second-best teammate, Grant Hill, was perpetually injured, leaving McGrady to shoulder the load alone. Despite putting up incredible numbers, he couldn't carry the team to playoff success. In 2001, the Magic were swept by the Milwaukee Bucks led by Ray Allen. The following year, McGrady faced an upset sweep at the hands of the Charlotte Hornets. While McGrady was the best player in the series, the result was a frustrating early exit. Perhaps McGrady's most memorable playoff run came in 2003 when he took the Magic to a 3-1 lead over the Detroit Pistons, only to blow the series and lose in 7 games. When McGrady was traded to the Houston Rockets, his performances continued to impress on paper, but the results remained the same. The Rockets, despite having talent like Yao Ming, fell to teams like the Dallas Mavericks in 2005 and the Utah Jazz in 2007 and 2008. Ironically, the Rockets made it to the second round in 2009, the first time in a decade when McGrady was sidelined because of injury, only adding to rumors that he was just bad luck for the team. And nobody understands that better than Chris Paul. CP3 is considered one of the best point guards in NBA history, but his biggest issue was that he couldn't break through when it mattered most. Let's look at the numbers real quick. CP3 actually upped his game in the playoffs, but with such good stats, why couldn't he get past the first round? What's the deal? For CP3, it's a different kind of heartbreak, whether it was untimely injuries like his hamstring going down with the Rockets or running into juggernaut teams like the Warriors. It seemed like something always derailed his deep playoff runs. The craziest part? When he's not on the floor, his team sometimes advance farther without him. Seems like when the playoffs hit, sometimes it's not just about your stats, it's about who's with you, who you're up against, and a little bit of luck. Unfortunately for Russell Westbrook, his issue is that of plain old choking under pressure. Russell has consistently been one of the most polarizing figures in NBA history, but when it comes to the playoffs, there's no denying a harsh reality. Westbrook just can't seem to perform when it matters most. Time and time again, he's fallen short under the brightest lights, and the pattern is hard to ignore. In 2011, a young Thunder squad faced the Mavericks in what was seen as an even matchup, but Westbrook set the tone with an ice-cold 3 for 15 performance in Game 1. His struggles continued throughout the series, shooting 7 for 22 and 11 for 28 in critical moments, ultimately costing his team. The following year, OKC made it all the way to the finals, but Westbrook's inefficiency was glaring, taking more shots than Kevin Durant, yet scoring fewer points. His shooting percentages were abysmal, and in Game 5 of the finals, he went a miserable 4 for 20 in the elimination game. Even in 2014, which was arguably his best postseason run, Westbrook nearly got eliminated in the first round. His shooting issues were front and center again, as he barely scraped together 47.9% true shooting percentage. And in crunch time against the Spurs, he shot 4 for 15 in the fourth quarter and overtime, ultimately sealing OKC's fate with a horrendous shot that hit the shot clock. Fast forward to 2016, 2018, 2019, and 2020, and the pattern repeats. Whether it's getting shut down by the Jazz, shooting bricks against the Blazers, or failing to deliver in crunch time against the Lakers, Westbrook's playoff miseries have become legendary for all the wrong reasons. Even as recently as 2023, in a Clippers uniform, Russ delivered a nightmare performance, contributing just 1 point and getting ejected in Game 3 against the Mavericks. No matter how you cut it, Russell Westbrook's playoff career has been a roller coaster of inconsistency, and when it comes to delivering in the postseason, he just can't seem to get it right. This is something Karl Malone is also famous for, amongst other things. One of the most dominant power forwards in NBA history, 14-time All-Star, 11 All-NBA first-team selections, and a Hall of Fame career filled with jaw-dropping stats. But for all his greatness, there's one thing Malone never delivered: a championship. So what happened? First, let's talk about competition. Malone played in the wrong era if you're looking to snag a ring, because he was up against Jordan and the Chicago Bulls dynasty. Malone and his Utah Jazz made it to the finals in both 1997 and 1998, only to have their dreams crushed by Jordan's GOAT moments. Now, Malone had a lethal pick-and-roll duo with John Stockton, but when the playoffs hit, that wasn't always enough. The Jazz often ran into elite defensive teams that neutralized their strategy, and let's be real, even though Stockton and Malone were iconic together, they couldn't always get past the toughest squads in the West. Then there's the timing and injuries. Malone's career was full of moments when it seemed like they were on the brink of a championship, only to have key injuries derail their run or run into bad matchups that felt impossible to overcome. And here's the thing, while Malone dominated the regular season, when the pressure cranked up in the playoffs, his performance dipped. In the finals in particular, he had some key moments where his shooting went ice cold when his team needed him most. As if the story couldn't get more tragic, Malone took one final swing at a ring by joining the stacked Los Angeles Lakers in 2003 with Kobe, Shaq, and Gary Payton. It seemed like the perfect recipe for a championship, but nope. They fell to the Detroit Pistons in 2004, leaving Malone ringless in his final shot at glory.